What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to rank the Scream movies. The time has come, and we're at the point, obviously 5 is just about a month or so away, and I want to go through this. Now, I just want to, I guess, preface it by saying, obviously, but maybe it's not so obvious for YouTube, these are just my opinions. So if you disagree with them, totally cool. And also, let me just ask, right away, let me know in the comments, what's your ranking of the 4 movies, okay? Let me know. Now, I'm going to go, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go worst to best. But with that being said, I don't think any of these movies are bad, right? I've talked about all of them. We talk about them all the time, and I really do like all of them. I just have favorites, okay? And I'm going to try my best to explain why they are my favorites. But coming in number 4, dead last, worst, whatever you want to say, Scream 3. I really feel confident putting it here, and we talked about this one, right? I made a video talking about if Scream 3 was like a misunderstood masterpiece or if it was just flat out disappointing, and I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think this movie is bad, but I don't feel, there obviously are people that say like it's aged really well, and I do think the themes that they did with Hollywood and all that stuff, very smart, and very, I mean, it's actually kind of scary how accurate it is, right? And even back then, but that stuff was happening back then as well. That stuff is really good. I like the idea that they were doing that stuff. With that being said, though, and as I've said, like, Sydney is easily the best part of this movie. I guess the last act, the last part of it in the, in the house is really, which is like the last 30 or so minutes, is really good. Yet again, well, I want to make sure I say it right. I wouldn't say, like, when Dewey and Gale and all of them are in the house, that's the best part. I would say once Sydney gets activated, to go to battle, that's when it becomes really good. Neve Campbell did an incredible, every single time she's on screen, including when she's, taking the self-help calls, she does absolutely amazing. The opening is pretty solid. I think it's the second weakest opening or the third best, again, however you want to say it. I do think 1 and 2's openings are better, but I do think 3's opening is better than 4. But really, to me, the movie isn't all that amazing. I don't love it all that much, except for the chase with Sydney in the Woodsboro recreation, and then the ending. So pretty much anything, again, that has Sydney in it, I think everybody else does fine. I like Dewey, I like Gale, but I just don't, there's not a lot to this movie that I, like, absolutely love. There's not a lot that I would want to go back to rewatch, and that's kind of a big thing with me when I do rankings or when I think of movies, how, the replayability of it or the rewatchability of it, which one has the most. Again, though, I really want to make it known, I don't hate this movie at all. I love a lot of it. I think the ending is maybe the best third act of all 4 of them, which is quite the statement, because 1's ending obviously is pretty amazing. I really like, though, the battle, their kind of conversation, Sydney being shot and just kind of disappearing and getting the one-up on him. I love that ending. So that really helps it, but everything else really, and I guess one final thing, I just thought of this in my head, like the voice changer. I know there are some people that do like it. I hate it. You have Roger L. Jackson. He's so good. Good, and every time he talks in 3 as well, he's so good, and you use a voice changer because of technology, because of technological advancements, and you want to be a little fancy. I get why that would have been cool back in 2000, but it's just, you got him there, you should just keep him, you know what I mean? And you should just use him to the fullest of his potential. Okay, number 3. Now, 4 I think is, I think a lot of people is probably going to put 3 at, dead last. And maybe they're not, but maybe some are. And I really think this one is the more controversial, and I think I'm going to go, and I have to go, with Scream 2. I'm actually going to put Scream 2 here, which means, well, we'll save them for afterwards. But Scream 2 goes here. There's a big jump between 4, you got 4, let me see if I can get him at 4, and then like 3's like up here. It's not like they're like, right next to each other. You got 4 and then you got 3 as a big jump. Scream 2 is very good, but it suffers from issues. But with that, even with saying that, you gotta think, because I don't watch, and I've talked about this before, right? Like, I don't watch a lot of horror movies. I would try to watch like a fair amount of movies just in general, but horror films in particular, so difficult to make. Really more than one, and not just more than one, but make them good. and Scream is so, in my opinion, like the first movie is just so perfect, pretty much in every way, that to expand upon it, like, you're gonna run into issues. It's just going to happen. And so the best you can hope for is that it's just kind of at a steady and I think they, I really think they do it. You know, Scream 2, 3 is a little low, 4, you know, I really think they're in a pretty consistent area. But Scream 2 is very good. Randy gets a lot more time to shine. I love Randy. He does a really good job. Obviously, Jamie Kennedy, right? You know, Neve as Sydney, she, I feel like, takes a huge step back. But really, she gets replaced, in a way, as, like, the lead that I really do like with Gale. I think it's actually kind of funny, because I think there's been polls of, like, which movie, like, do you like Gale the most in? And, like, 1, I think, is probably, like, the I guess, opinion of the group. I actually think 2 by a mile, in terms of, like, a character arc. In 1, she's got a little of it, but I don't think nearly as much as 2. 2, she goes through an entire arc of, you know, she is this self-absorbed person, but she gets past it, and she becomes actually a good person, a person that's willing to care. So I just think 2 does a lot of things right. Again, everybody in it, I think, is really good. The biggest issues are, I think, things just happening too perfectly, specifically when you get towards the end. Again, like capturing lightning in a bottle the way 1 did, you're never going to be able to do that. I mean, they kind of did it for 3, they kind of did it for 4. I guess 2 is the only one that was, like, because they're expanding, right? But, like, 2, it was, like, if Sydney did not go into that theater opera room or whatever, right, at the very end where the music was playing from, which, like, you can only hear right when you get close. If she didn't go into that one, going from the car crash, which was however far away, so she went back on campus, and then she went to that specific, so, like, that's a small thing, I guess, but the idea, I don't really know. I just don't think that that's, like, the most perfect thing. And again, it's a bigger movie, but then that comes with, like, a little bit more mistakes. You have a character like Mickey, who's actually really solid, but he's, like, not in it almost at all, and he's one of the killers. That's kind of an issue. Also, I've never really been, I think I've said this before, I've never really been the biggest fan of his motive. I get it. I do think it's cool. I would just say, well, I guess to retract my own statement, I don't hate it. I don't, like, love it. I think in, like, the ranking of everybody's, I think it would be rather low in terms of motive. But I understand it, and I think it's cool. I think it's definitely very, very different. I just don't think it's the best one. Mrs. Loomis is good. That's another one, though, right? Like, she's cool. She is. She's cool. The ending fight with her, with all of them, right, is really neat. But the thing is, like, her entire plan was her entire plan was her plan. But if she got seen by Sydney one time, it's over. It's over. At any point in the movie when she's, you know, doing her reporting stuff and getting close to Gale and all that stuff, if at any point Sydney sees her, it's game over. And it's like you're going to risk, and you did a lot of stuff where you are in the general area of Sydney, like you're within feet of her at, you know, at some point. So I just think it was pretty risky of a move to get that close. So, you know, again, those are just kind of things that happen that you're like, well, maybe she couldn't be the killer because of this reason. Maybe she could. Again, I like Scream 2 a lot. You could obviously have the argument too of you know, killing Randy off. That was a good. I don't think it was a good decision at all. I think they suffered for that, you know, later on. But you know, there's things that are good and bad throughout this movie. But I really do enjoy it. Funny enough, though, I would say out of the openings, I get that people really like the opening of 2. I actually feel like, well, 4's opening I think is absolutely awful. I think 2's is better than that, but I wouldn't put it like at some sort of masterpiece level. I don't even know. Maybe it's better than 3, but it's kind of it's in a general area. Again, all of these 2, 3, 4 are in a general area, so I'm kind of spoiling which one is number 1. Number 2, Scream 4. This is obviously where I think people are probably going to put 3 at last. And then they're going to switch 2 and 4, or maybe keep them in the same order I did. And I think 1 would be everybody's favorite. But that's my prediction, my Nostradamus. So Scream 4, and again, like, I don't want to feel bad over anything that I say. I got to just go with my heart. I got to go with what I feel watching these movies, and just as a, you know, fan of them, which ones do I enjoy? And then you guys can yell at me after it. And I don't want you to feel bad. If you think Scream 3 is the best one, you have pride typing that into your keyboard and in the comments. I want you to have pride because it's your opinion. I like 4. I like 4, and I think it's not the cleanest of movies, but at all. But I do think it captures. And again, like, and I've said this before, like, I didn't watch 4 when it came out. Yet again, I did watch 4 roughly, like, within the next couple of years afterwards. Remember, I got into this franchise a lot later. I was born in 96, so clearly I couldn't have watched 1, 2, 3, you know, back in the day. But I think 4 captures, and maybe it's aged well. I think that's another thing, too. But it captures 1 really well, in my opinion. And it does it in a way where it's not copying it, but it's doing something somewhat close, but it's taking things, I mean, the gore and the stuff like that is taking it to a new level. Roger L. Jackson, right, the voice, he does phenomenal. There's a lot of really good phone calls. Anyone's to Sydney, the one to, Kirby and Jill, from the closet, like, even, I would say even to Kirby when he's quizzing her towards the end. They're incredible. They're incredible. And while Jill isn't the greatest character, she's not. At least I don't think so. I do like her being the killer, and I think that's all fine. Kirby is really the standout. And then everybody else, like Sydney, Gale, Dewey, they're all solid. I think Gale is really good. Dewey, I would say. Dewey, I would say, probably suffers the most. Gale is really good. Dewey, they're trying to do stuff with him. They're having him just drive around the entire city, like the entire time, or town, or whatever, the entire movie. He's just constantly in the car, going from point A to point B, and then being told that Ghostface is somewhere else, and then he has to go that somewhere else, right? And Sydney is really good, but she's stuck in Jill's house for, like, 75% of the movie. You know what I mean? So there are definitely problems. There's big problems. And even we've talked about it, like the original idea for the opening, maybe to be like a Sydney attack, that would have been, I guess, on paper at least, miles better than what they did. I am not a fan at all. And again, as I said, I think this is the weakest of all of the openings. I don't like the stab 5-7. All of those. I get it. I understand it. It's that meta-ness. But, even like the alternate cut, right, we talked about there, the alternate, opening scene, I think is better than the one we got. So I just think they chose the weakest one. The idea of the ending, where it was going to be a little bit more like we don't really know what happened. Sydney could be dead. She could be alive. She could have amnesia. Jill survives to go on like a rampage later. Like, these are cool ideas. Yes, on paper. And that's the thing I want to distinguish, right? Because they're just on paper. They're not, actually on the screen. So maybe they turn out horrible, but on paper they sound pretty cool. But even with that, I really am a fan of the last act. I love Kirby throughout the entire thing. I think she carries every scene she's in. But that last act is really, really good. Again, the voice, Ghostface, themselves are very, very good. The kills are very, very good. Not that I don't really care about them all that much, but they're definitely like at a new level here. I really do. I enjoy the movie. I enjoy it quite a bit. And again, in terms of like watchability, that's kind of why. It's kind of why it would be up here. I really do believe if I had to watch these again, which ones would I enjoy in that order? This is that order. I think I would, if you told me which one would you rather rewatch, I'd watch 4 before I watch 2 and 3. That's just, I guess, how it is. And number 1, obviously, Scream 1. Well, what can be said about the movie that hasn't been said? Again, I really do think, I don't know if it's a perfect film, but it, again, captures that lightning in a bottle that's insanely, if not impossible, difficulty to be able to do again, right? Everybody works so well. Dewey, Gale, Sydney. Sydney is phenomenal. Billy and Stu, these are the real standouts, right? There's only a handful, I would say, of characters that really, Kirby is one from 4, but there's really not a lot. Randy, but then they chop him off, so they don't have too many characters that insanely stand out. And Stu and Billy are both characters that insanely stand out. But just everything works. Just the concept. It's hard to talk about Scream because really what it boils down to is the concept of this, cat and mouse, and them going after Sydney and the chases and trying to figure out who it is, and could it be 1, could it be 2, and Billy, is it not, and the house party at the end, and that being like what, a 40-50 minute scene overall. Just half the movie is at that house, which is so weird to think about. You think about movies that just go to like, even like say Red Notice on Netflix, right? They just go to all of these locations, and it's like, well, going to 50 locations that are huge venues doesn't immediately make your movie good. I'm not saying, I actually liked Red Notice. I'm not saying anything against it, but just in general, right? All these venues, they don't really mean much if your movie sucks. You need to have a solid product, and Scream keeps it small, keeps it sustained, right, in a small area, and that's what I think 4 was trying to do again, which 2 and 3 didn't. And then 5, I think, is also trying to, copy that. And I think that's why, because it works so well to keep everything kind of closed. So, again, obviously there's so much more to it. All the phone calls, I mean, this has some of the better phone calls in the entire franchise. Again, the chase scenes are some of the best. The killers are the 2, best ones, all of that stuff. So, what can really be said that hasn't been said? that's my ranking. Okay, I want to hear again from you guys in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you are not already. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these Scream videos go up. If you want to follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my second channel or support us on Patreon or YouTube memberships, links for them all are in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next video.